so sick, dude.
Yeah, nice, and the weather's good. Thanks for inviting me in your field.
What's been the scariest yet most rewarding leap of faith you've ever taken in your 20s?
I decided to go back to school because I had a job, which I found interesting. I used to be a flight attendant, and I think flight attendant is a great job, but there was something missing for me, which after reading The Code of an Extraordinary Mind, which is a really good book, I got to see the difference between jobs, careers, and quests. A job is something that needs to bring in money. Whether you like it or not, doesn't matter. You need money, you need to live, you need to pay for bills, and so on. A career also has that monetary aspect, but also needs to have some amount of satisfaction and usually requires some amount of expertise. And I found that those parts were missing and that I needed that extra oomph, and that's why I went back to school to become a pilot. And the joke was, now I just work on the other side of the door, right? I loved everything of my job except my job. And finally, if you want to know what the quest is, well, the quest isn't necessarily regard towards money, but more if you had all the money in the world, how would you spend your life? What would you do, right? And then I think that's also a good question to ponder and figure out for yourself.
Going back to school was the scariest thing by far in your 20s.
Well, at some point you get comfortable. You get comfortable in what you do. I was satisfied in the idea that I had enough money for whatever I needed as a flight attendant. I had all the advantages of being able to travel cheap, and it was getting very comfortable. I think what was even scarier is as I was working, at some point I felt as if I could have done that for the rest of my life, maybe, but I would regret it. And I think that regret was strong enough, or that fear of regretting was strong enough to pull me out of there and make me try something else. And now 3 years later, it was hard, don't get me wrong. Going to school, I wasn't necessarily the best student as well. And piloting is a very serious job, so I had to kick myself in the butt to do what I have to do. And there's just no regret ever since. It was one of the best decisions of my life. But it's scary to face that unknown, being like, am I doing this all over again, I guess.
You started as a flight attendant at what age?
It was around my 19, 20, something like that.
19, 20? And then you quit to become a pilot to go back to school, right?
Yeah.
At what age?
I started studying at around 23, yeah, so that makes sense. Yeah.
Okay. And how old are you now?
27.
27.
2 years in piloting.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah.
That's a solid first question, huh?
That's good.
Lifeless for price. High-tech devices to keep the tech down at your price.
And so the intention behind this is like for me to understand, okay, what are things in your personal experience, in your life as a traveler, as a flight attendant, as a pilot, as someone who's had many experiences, a great deal of experiences. How have you, as a person, developed your relationship to fear and anxiety and stress?
Okay. I once lost my passport in an airport. So I was coming back from Hawaii. I had a really fun trip, and I lost my passport in the airport. And perhaps was it Hawaii, perhaps was it, I don't know, the vibes of the island, but at that moment, I realized that stress was absolutely pointless. You can do what you have to do, and then the rest is just not in your hands. And I think that's what's hard to differentiate for people. You need to understand what's in my power, and is it worth it to use my energy to deal with that specific subject? And I know it's a lot easier to say, but to say than do, but we'll get to that. In the case of my passport, I went around, talked to the information center, talked to the security, talked to the gate agents.
Because you had lost it in Hawaii.
Yeah, in the airport of Hawaii.
Oh, okay.
So I was already past the border, and I left it somewhere, and then I did all of that. I sat down at the gate. Everybody was informed. And I could have at that moment said, oh, well, what if that doesn't happen? And put some music on, and I waited. That's it. That's the only thing I could do. And I was lucky on that specific moment. One of the gate agents said, hey, we found your passport. Here it is. And the lesson of that is, even if it would have ended badly, so I actually lost my passport in that moment, it's important to remind yourself that whatever difficult events that you're living in the present moment, that's harsh, that's difficult to live through, will allow you to be someplace either a week from now, a month from now, or a year or 10 years from now that you wouldn't be if it wasn't through living the hell that you're living now. And it's very difficult to have that perspective when you're in it, when your face is there. But think of moments of the past where you had difficult situations and you're like, well, if it wasn't from that, I wouldn't be here. I wouldn't be the person that I am. So it's difficult to live through them, but it's good to have that optimism in the back of your mind to say to yourself, if I do make it through, I'm going to get somewhere amazing. And I hope that the day that you get, or I get, or whoever's listening, get to that amazing moment, that they'll realize, hey, I couldn't possibly be here if it wasn't from the shit I lived before.
So it's like having a more long-term relationship when faced with adversity or stress or fear. It's like understanding that it's like a hurdle to jump over, and that in the long term it'll be worth it.
And to be able to use your past experiences to reflect in the present moment and say, hey, I made it through those, which brought me to some good events, which eventually brought me to whatever's stressing me at the moment, and I will get through this as well, and I'll get to an even higher place.
Yeah, okay, interesting. Next question. Tree shot. Grass shot.
Pretty damn good, eh?
In comparison to when you were 20, how has your relationship and perspective on success and what it means to be fulfilled changed?
So what does it mean to be successful to me?
When you were 20, how was success defined for your life? And now, how do you look at success? How do you know that you reach success, or how do you know you're getting close?
Well, I'll be honest, I was quite lost when I was 20. I just became a flight attendant, and that was fun, and I got to travel and everything, but that doesn't mean I necessarily knew what I wanted to do. And even as you keep on moving forward, there's just this desire once you hit those goals to aim for something higher. I think that's very human of me.
Yeah.
And through that, well, one thing that could be considered a success, regardless of our ever growing desire to achieve more, would be to actually enjoy when we get to the destination we've been striving for so long, to stop and say, hey, I made it. And perhaps that I did less in my 20s. I just wanted to get somewhere so bad that I wasn't enjoying the road, the adventure. And that's what life is all about. I think about it, but if I look at us here laying in the grass, enjoying some sun, like that's what life is all about. It's about taking the time to enjoy this process, to be freaking present, to look at your hands and ground yourself. We're alive. That's a form of success. So I'd say it's it's about
She's gonna join us.
so I'd say success is also about enjoying the small moments, and I've been better at that ever since I've been growing. She just took a picture.
Oh yeah?
That's gonna finish on the family chat.
Yeah. So here's another question. During the grass shot, looking back, how do you think differently about taking risks now versus when you were 22 or 20? I keep on saying 22, but because I'm 22, but I mean 20.
Yeah, risk. Okay. It depends which type of risk you're talking about, because risks means that you might hurt yourself, whether it's emotionally or physically. I think some physical risks that guys in their 20s tend to take are not necessarily worth it. I don't know. I'm gonna jump off this really high rock that I haven't checked the bottom to see if the water's deep enough. Like, that's unnecessary risk. But when it comes to risk in the sense that I'm gonna change my life, I'm gonna try to become a YouTuber, I'm going to put my career aside, go back to school and become a pilot. People should take risks in their 20s, and I think people should live in their 20s too.
So would you say risking throughout your 20s is essential?
Absolutely. Absolutely. If you put, let's say, on a monetary aspect, if you would start during your 20s, work like a maniac. And it's good. You should be working in your 20s. I'm not saying you should not. But if you put everything aside and say, oh, I'm going to live once I retire. And it's sad. There was this great guy that I used to work with at a butcher shop. And he was a few months from his retirement. And one day he didn't come in for work. He learned he had cancer and died a month after. after.
Wow.
And I'm not saying that guy didn't live life. He loved biking and did some biking, but that's what I'm saying. You need to live. You need to take those risks when you're in your 20s, and risk can mean traveling. People say like, oh no, I should finish my school and then go straight away to university, and I can't allow myself you can allow yourself a gap year. Go travel. Traveling will teach you much more about life, about either enjoying life or things you don't like than probably any first year of university.
And so when you look onto your life, where did you find risk was most essential?
Okay, I'm gonna share a good story. When I was a little bit younger than you, maybe 18 or 19, I left for British Columbia and I backpacked with my best friend. And during that summer, it was a crazy summer, we picked cherries for a month and drank and did all the crazy stuff you do at that age. And after that, he left because he had to go back to school. But I remember leaving home saying to my mom that I would keep on traveling as long as I'm happy. And I kept on going for a month, and about 2 months and a half in, I found myself in the middle of a Whistler forest with my tent. Not in Whistler, but in the vicinity of. And as I was reading my book, all of a sudden I started crying. And as I let it go, I've realized that what I said to my mother, that I would keep on traveling as long as I'm happy, was interesting, because what truly made me happy was this. It's to spend quality time with the people that I love. So I was there. I had to leave home, travel the country to the other side for a few months.
Yeah, you went from BC back to Quebec, right? Wow.
Well, or from Quebec back to BC, just to realize that what truly made me happy was to be home and to be with people that I love. And it seems simple, but it's very deep and ingrained in my heart. And you don't understand that if you don't travel, if you don't live it from yourself. So that's why, risk might be put yourself out there, put yourself in situations that weren't comfortable. It wasn't always a comfortable trip. I slept in my tent in the middle of the forests by myself for weeks. I lived with people that were homeless and got to learn from them for the experiences they had and how they got there. And you just don't learn it the same way that if you looked at it on YouTube or a documentary, right? Being there with the people, with yourself, and in different situations just makes you grow a lot faster. And I do believe it's necessary. So that to say, take risks.
Do you feel like you'll be taking similar risks moving into your 30s?
Ooh, good question. At some point, you will need to consider the future. So I think it's a transition that not everybody does the same way, because maybe you want to have a family or you want to settle down with somebody, and that does require planning and money and some amount of maturity and stability and so on. And will I be taking less risks? Possibly. I'm not saying I won't be taking any. And the reason why I'd be taking less is because since I tried so many things that I don't like, I now am in a position that I know what I want. And now that I know that I want, I know where to go. So there's no necessity to take risks. I think one of the scariest parts is when you're there sitting at one moment saying like, oof, I don't know what to do and I don't know what I want, or I'll figure it out sitting. It's the wrong way to do it. Fucking try something. And if you don't like it, at least you'll be somewhere else with a different perspective. And as you start eliminating things that you don't like, which is a lot easier than finding things you enjoy doing, then at some point you will fall on a trail that leads towards what you want. Oh, and here's an extra bonus thing. Every single thing that I tried that I end up not enjoying weren't lost. So let's say I'm not a big fan of video editing, but it's a useful skill. And I've ended up using it 100 times ever since I learned it when I was 16 or 18 or so on. And that's one example of many, but don't go thinking that whatever you're trying, even if it results in failure and you not liking it, that it won't be useful. It's going to come back around in the weirdest ways, and you're going to be like, oh, well, I have that asset, I have that skill, and I can do this. So
You brought a new perspective to the idea of the 20s are meant for exploration and the 30s are meant for doubling down, right? And like I've been told that by my parents, it's like explore as much as you can in your 20s, right? Because you don't know what you like. And like you said, you don't know what you don't like. And so from what I'm hearing from you is like risk as much as you can, as boldly as you can, travel, gain experiences, understand what you don't like, so then you could double down on what you do love, right?
The sooner you figure out what you love doing, work especially, it doesn't feel like work anymore. You know what you want to do, and you start doing it like crazy. It's just fun. Like I could freaking speak with you in the grass all day if we were paid for this. We're not.
Not yet.
Not yet.
Subscribe.
Because I love it. So yeah, that's one of the greatest things. Once I started piloting, I freaking love the job. It's difficult. It comes with its challenges, but I freaking love it. And every day I go to work, I'm just there. I'm having fun, and it's serious, but and I hope people can figure out whatever that is for themselves. But that comes with taking risks and trying a bunch of things that you won't end up enjoying, but at least you tried.
That's great advice.
What's one thing you've tried before that you ended up hating?
I don't know. That's a great question. I feel like
Perhaps I haven't tried enough things yet.
Yeah, maybe not. What would you say to your 18-year-old self to get yourself out of that rut, to get yourself just moving and just into something that, like, okay, I know where I'm going, I'm following threads, I'm no longer stuck in this paralysis, I have no idea, even a slightest clue of where to move?
It's a hard question because I want to say that I would do it too. But if I wanted to accelerate the process, it would have been travel, take risks in whatever you think you might be interested in. So that means, I want to take a pottery class because I believe pottery might be fun. Do it. And finally, talk to people that you don't know and learn to listen when you're not necessarily agreeing with whatever that person has to say. Because at the end of the day, even if you don't agree with 90% of, let's say, the things I just said, but if you have the openness to do it, you will now have that perspective in your bag of thoughts, and it will give you a different angle on a certain subject and enlarge your pie of connaissance, of knowledge. But if you're closed to different ideas and different perspectives, then you don't get those perspectives, and I think that can also limit your potential and growth.
Okay, so open your mind to new perspectives, even those that you disagree with.
At least listen to them.
Yeah, at least listen to them.
I'm not saying you need to agree to everything. It's good to have your own thoughts and to solidify them on strong values. Listen to them.
Well,
you cold?
yeah. Let's get fucking cold. Look at that. Look at the grass. Stair shot. It got a little bit chilly, so we had to put on little coats. How has your definition of a good life changed in your 20s?
I would already consider myself very privileged of living a good life. I think what changed people's perspective on what a good life is because, or when they think they're not living a good life, it's because they don't know what a bad life, a truly bad life is. So I'd say I've always been quite optimist, despite the challenges, like everybody, and the failures and the amount of stress that might have come with whatever events I had to live, but I've always been quite optimist on living a good life. Because I want to make it clear, I know that I have a good life, and now I think the question to ask would be, how can I make it even better, right?
Yeah, no, I agree. It's interesting because, like, on a global standard, in terms of quality of life, we're top 8% global. Just in terms of natural resources, like, we have free water, right? You know, just in America, they got to pay for water, dude. It's crazy.
Freaking crazy.
Yeah, that being said, like many of us as well, like, we've seen a lot of bad things on documentaries and, like, you know, on the news and stuff. We know what a bad life is. To you, what is a good life? What does that look like?
Being healthy, having people that you care, that you love, and that has that mutual companionship and friendship, and then being paid for doing work.
Yeah.
In the sense that once work is something you love, it doesn't feel like work anymore. And when you can do it and actually appreciate and have fun and challenge yourself through that, there's just nothing better. And on that side, on a good life side, I think that through exploration, through taking risks, going back to school, I've been starting to hit those marks. And I'm very grateful actually for all of that. And it's funny because the effort comes from within, to put yourself out there, to challenge yourself. But I'm still grateful to call it God, call it the universe, to the world, to have put myself into this position, because some opportunities that come to you aren't necessarily your choice. They just come around, and then it's up to you if you seize them or not.
Yeah, they're like passing trains.
Yeah.
That's what my dad always tells me. It's like, always look out for those trains. And to add on to that point that you made earlier, it's like being in a place like Canada or the US, it's like trains pass like every day. You know, it's like trains are literally everywhere.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So, no, we really do live in abundance. All right, little fire.
Hey, Viola. I'm in the middle of filming a video with Will.
Look at this mic.
Right? We'll talk tomorrow.
Yeah, for sure.
Right.
Bye-bye.
Bye now.
Okay, so now we're back. Got a little chilly outside. We had a little intermission break.
Little hypothermia.
Looking back at your 20s so far, what has been the most valuable lesson in creating a life that you're proud of?
It's going to come back to what we were saying a little bit outside, but don't be afraid to take risks. Don't be afraid to fail. Know that you will fail. Accept it. And then from that, you will try. And when you try, you will fail. And when you fail, you will learn. And it will only go upwards from there. But if you limit yourself by saying, oh, but I can't try that because I'm probably not going to be good at it, you'll just stay there in place, feeling stuck. Say to yourself, fuck it. I'm going to be bad at it. Good. Put yourself out there. Try things.
What small, consistent choices have had the biggest impact on shaping you into the person that you've become now?
Building strong habits. So exercising regularly, once every other day, per se. Flossing, which seems ridiculous, but it makes a good difference on your health hygiene, right? And journaling. Journaling, I feel, is a great way to have an introspection on yourself. It's not for the other people, it's an Instagram for your own self. And I write down, what did I do during the day? How did I feel about it? And I do believe that in a few years, once I'm older, and I go back on all of those days, then I'll get to have that perspective of seeing a life that was rich. Yeah. Overall, just build strong habits.
Yeah.
It's small, sometimes feels insignificant, but actually has a tremendous impact on your overall life.
Huh?
I feel like doing cheers with this. Is this how we can finish? Cheers.
Thank you for joining me, dude. That's a good way to end it. That's a good way to end it.